In this lesson, we're going to create the deformation loops that we need in the arm. Alright, so we've created the geometry for the arms themselves, and now what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have the elbow deformation ready. So to get started with this, we have plenty of loops in the arm itself. So this is going to deform really well, except for right here at the elbow. Now the elbow does have enough geometry there to where it would bend, but what would happen here is if a rigging artist were to come in and rig this character and would start to skin this and rotate the elbow around, what would happen is that the elbow, it would look like you would bend a straw in half. So it would start to flatten out and lose some volume. So some ways to counter that is to create some loops right here on the back side of the elbow. Now this is very, very simple. We can come in and we can go to polygon mode and select the polygons that we need on the elbow itself. So let me go ahead and remove that turbo smooth so that way I can see all of this shaded properly. And to F2, there we go. With this set of polygons selected, we want to make sure that we have everything in the elbow. So let's go around that on either side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use inset. Now inset, as we know, creates a polygon on the inside of the selected polygons. And just by creating that, what that's going to do is it's going to allow that volume to stay in there for the most part. It's really going to be helpful to the animator or to the rigging artist. So we're going to take that set of polygons or that edge and we're going to pull that out and give that a little bit of an elbow there. And then we're going to take that middle polygon or vertex, just pull that out some. Now we can come in and we can start to pull these down a little bit more, just try to shape that a little bit better. But all in all, I think we're pretty good. I might want to pull this out just kind of round that out a little bit more, but other than that, I think we're looking really good at this point. Okay, so now I've got the loops that I need for the elbow. Let's take a look at this with Turbo Smooth applied. Notice how it gives you a nice set of loops around that edge there. So whenever that elbow bends, all of these loops here are going to collapse together into this point. Now, with these loops, let's go back to Editable Poly. With these loops applied, and let's go to Edge Mode. Notice how far apart they are from the center of the elbow. It would be a good idea to come in and just take those loops along the front. So let's select these two and these two. Let's select these first. And let's go to Constrain by Edge. And let's pull that down in the X and Z. And let's just bring that a little closer to that main bend in the elbow. By making these closer, what it's going to do is it's going to give you a nice little round bend from this point to this point, because we have this loop in the middle. And if it were way up here, it would create a larger hole for that to collapse into. So making these closer means that they don't have to travel as far whenever it's being bent. So now we've got our loops for our elbow. Alright, so now let's get into the wrist portion here. So we need to get ready for the hands. So let's select that polygon on the bottom and delete that off. We are completely finished with that. So now, with the hands, we have a little bit of a different challenge. First off, we have to have enough geometry in the wrist for that to bend around. And then we also need to make sure that we have enough geometry for all of the geometry in the hand to connect to the wrist. So how are we going to tackle this? Well, we're going to build the hand separately. So what we're going to do with this, the remainder of this lesson, is we're just going to make sure that we have enough segments here in the wrist to get this started. So we really just need one segment right here at the top. Okay, and make sure that that is there, and then we'll come in and we'll go to vertex mode and we'll start to shape this out a little bit better. So we'll take these vertices, I'm going to pull those in because the wrist does start to kind of flatten out a little bit. But let's make sure that we have our let's make sure that we have our edge constraint turned off. Now let's pull that in. The wrist does flatten out a little bit underneath. We'll take that, we'll pull that in. We'll take these, pull that out some. Just try to match that to the rest of our geometry. I'm going to take these points here, I'm going to pull those in. I'm going to leave the elbow alone, it's fine. We're going to take these points, we'll pull those out. Pull that in some. Okay, and you could work on the armpit a little bit more if you want, if you need that pulled up in there some. Let's hit Alt-X. I'll take that point there from our front view. And we're going to pull that up some. Okay, just to kind of make that form a little bit better. Okay, so now we've got our shape. Let's go across the back side here. Let's take these these vertices here. And I'm just going to pull those back a little bit. Just give that arm a little bit more shape right in there. And let me take the vertices on the elbow. Let me pull those up some, because the bone of the elbow is just a little bit higher here. So let's constrain that to edge, and we'll pull that up in the X and Z. And then just the middle one there. Whoops. Make sure we grab the right one. There we go. So we've got plenty of shape in the arm. We don't want to go too high in like detail or anything like that. We just want a little bit of detail. Let me turn off my edge constraint. Let me pull that down some. That was just a little bit too high there. Kind of looked a little odd with that pulled up like so. Okay, so now we've got some good shape here. We could come in and we could take these edges right here in the middle on the elbow. We could push those in just to kind of help out with that bend whenever it gets ready to bend inward. So that looks good. I'm really happy with the shape of the forearm. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. Let's take this set of edges right here, and let's push those in the Y a little bit. And that's all looking good. Okay, so now that we've finished out the arm, we're now ready for the wrist. We've got all the deformation that we need, so this is going to look really good whenever it's rigged and animated. Now, we're not going to be getting into that in this course. By the time you're finished with this, you should be able to model just about any shape that you see, but if you want to learn how to rig and skin and animate things like that, you'll have to move on into other courses and learn about that. Delano is really great with teaching you how to do so. So let's go ahead and move on to our next section, where we're going to talk about how to build the hands. So I'll see you then.